You ever been in an argument with somebody and never, and you said your side of the thing, and that person kind of goes, "Yeah, but really, but is that true? Yeah, but is it?" And just sort of, obviously on the other side of the position, but is sort of casting doubt on it. Interesting thing about that type of argument is they're not actually addressing the evidence or the argument. They're just going, "Yeah, but right?" Just sort of casting a shadow of doubt on what's being said, right? It's sort of a cynical position. It's not addressing necessarily what's going on, but it's saying, I'm not sold on this, right? In prayer, I've been, by the way, I'm going to be pulling from this a little bit. Excellent book on prayer. It's one of those ones that I sort of return to, on a yearly basis kind of thing. But been going through this a bit again. But in prayer, we can find some cynicism start to creep into our prayer. So it would look like, I'm praying for something, but there's that shadow of doubt. Is this really going to happen? Yes, I'm going through the motions of doing the prayer, but you're not convinced. You're not convinced. Or the flip side of that, if a prayer is actually answered, you go, well, maybe it would have happened anyway, right? And we can have these little discussions, these little things going on internally in prayer, and that's cynicism creeping into our spiritual life, into our walk with God. So I've been reading A Praying Life. It's by Paul Miller. I definitely recommend it. I'm just going to read a section out of here. He's talking about cynicism. Cynicism begins with the wry assurance that everyone has an angle. Behind every silver lining is a cloud. The cynic is always observing, critiquing, but never engaged. To be cynical is to be distant, while offering a false intimacy of being in the know. In the know. Cynicism actually destroys intimacy. It leads to a creeping bitterness that can deaden and even destroy the spirit. A praying life is just the opposite. It engages evil. It doesn't take no for an answer. The psalmist was in God's face, hoping, dreaming, asking. Prayer is feisty. Cynicism, on the other hand, merely critiques. It is passive, cocooning itself from the passions of the great cosmic battle we are engaged in. It is without hope. So he spends a bit of time on this, and he actually goes to say this is one of the prevalent spirits of our age. This is one of the big temptations of our society and our time right now. In that we can sort of pull ourselves back and go, and not engage, but merely just sort of critique. I started thinking about this, and one of the best examples was in political activism in democracy. I have such low expectations. I go, okay, I'll go vote, I'll cast my ballot, but is change really going to happen? No, probably not. Right? And that's the attitude I come in, and I guess it could eat away at the idea of that democracy is important and useful and sort of this, but in my own spirit, it's just something that I've learned to recognize in little bits there, but I've seen it in myself in prayer also. I've seen it myself in my walk with God, and it needs to be addressed. So how did we get here? At some point, we're going to experience some disappointment. At some point, you're going to in people, in yourself, in situations. But the trick is that we now come to expect that. It's here we go again, and we sort of pull ourselves back and don't engage the same way that we used to. So this author, he talks about there's more than this, but he talks about the answer for cynicism is learn to hope again. Learn to hope again. Jesus brought hope before he healed. If you read the accounts of him, he walked around interacting with people and healing them, but he'll say something to them, don't weep. To Jairus, he goes, do not fear, only believe. Before he heals, before the situation changed, he brings hope to them, to their hearts. I work in mental health, and I'm working with an individual right now that deals with social anxiety. Lots of difficulty engaging with people and with breaking into new areas, and lots of doubt, lots of fear. And one of the things we're going through is try to reframe some of those thoughts, right? So I don't know if any of you are familiar with any like cognitive behavioral therapy ideas, but the idea behind that is how we perceive, how we look at an event, how we interpret it, determines our response to it, right? If I see social interaction as something that's dangerous, I get scared, I get keyed up, my blood pressure rises, my heart rate goes faster, all this stuff, all the way down. There's this whole physiological response and also mental response. And then from that, we behave differently. Well, I'm not going to go with that. I'm not going to say hi to that person, those sorts of things, right? So this is what we're working through. So this person had a lot of anxiety about sending a text to someone. I said, well, what were you thinking at that time? He goes, well, they might not want to hang out. I said, that's true, but, I said, okay, well, what's a more balanced perspective to that? He says, well, maybe they won't want to hang out, but maybe they will. Okay? So what we're doing is actually practicing hope, practicing a bit of a more balanced perspective. Maybe this thing won't come to pass like I want it to. Maybe I will be disappointed, but maybe not. Maybe there's a space for this interaction to go okay. And in our prayer life, sometimes we can come at it going, okay, let's do this because we know we're supposed to do it, and without faith, right, with that doubt creeping in. But maybe it's worth leaving some space for God to surprise us, right? Maybe there's some space for God to be able to sweep the rug out from under us in a good way, and go and come through for us and answer that prayer. Maybe I don't know what you're praying for, but maybe there is a space. If we're praying for somebody, maybe there might be an opportunity for a conversation to go into those places and to be able to share God, to be able maybe to speak to a need. Maybe that's what it'll look like. Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. Hope is something that's needed in our world today, and it's one of the beautiful things about Jesus, about God, about Christianity, is that He restores hope. He restores hope. He wants to build that back into us. In when we can get into spaces where it's all we see is the negative and that this is not going to go well, we've convinced ourselves that maybe it's not going to go well, so we pull back. God goes, no, press in. There's hope for your life. There's hope for in situations where it seems like there's no hope. Number 2. So number 1 was learn to hope again. Number 2, cultivate a childlike spirit. Cultivate a childlike spirit. So I'm just going to read a small section out here. So this is talking about C.S. Lewis and about how he wrote. Alan Jacobs, in his biography about C.S. Lewis, reflected that those who will never be fooled can never be delighted, because without self-forgetfulness there can be no delight. Lewis was able to write such captivating children's stories because he never lost his childlike spirit of wonder. The cynic is never fooled, so he is never delighted. There's this attitude of cynicism, is kind of, I know better. It's sort of this idea that you have this feeling like you're on the inside track, that you have better knowledge. But what a wonderful thing to be able to just go, I know God, and I know He knows it all, and to just be able to just rest in His perfect knowledge and plan for us, and allow Him to be able to surprise us, and allow Him to be able to move in our lives. Psalm 37.4, or 0.4, verse 4. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. that's become something that's sort of I'm trying to pray through. Something I've noticed myself that I can be this person that has this seed of doubt going on underneath the surface. But um, I'm trying to turn that prayer into God, I just want to delight in you. God, I just want to just stand back and watch you work and allow you to work in the situation and even through me in whatever the situation is. And to learn to just hope again and delight in God again. That's simple thought. Um, you know, there's a lot of voices today, you know, in the media and in the world and stuff like that, and it's unsettling and stuff, and it makes you want to pull back a little bit. It makes you want to go, but is there any, you know, where's this all headed? We can really place our hope in God, and that He knows what He's doing, and that He is working, and that He wants to move in our individual lives, in people, and learn to hope again, and learn to delight in Him again. So we'll close there, and